Michael Ryan, independent candidate. Michael, you're new to the political scene. Why now?
Well, I think actually this is just a pivotal moment in Irish history, and actually I think this is the most important general election that the Irish people will face or have ever faced since the foundation of the state. And I just think it behoves us all to either stand up, use our vote properly, or actually stand up for something or whatever we believe in.
Michael, you have a 5-point plan for a new Ireland. Just having a look at one of them is share the pain.
Yeah, one of the big things that struck me when I sat down to write this was the huge economic crisis we've had over the last 2 years. The first government reaction to that was actually to reduce the minimum wage. Now, I think we all could probably appreciate who's actually benefited from the Celtic Tiger over the last 10 to 15 years, and they certainly haven't been the individuals who are on the minimum wage. So I think my way of looking at things is you need to set an example, and leadership needs to be provided by politicians. So if you think the answer to an 86 billion euro question is to reduce the minimum wage for the people at the lowest end of the social spectrum, then you should experience what that's like. And what I'm suggesting basically is that all politicians should serve one term of 3 months on the minimum wage.
Political reform.
Yeah, I think practically all of the candidates and all the main political parties that you'll come across in the election will advocate political reform. So I'll actually just draw attention to one individual point that I've got on this. An awful lot of people have said that we should abolish the Seanad, for example. I think that's basically a short-term decision based around cutting out costs without actually thinking about, well, what actual function does the Seanad provide? There's an awful lot of examples of very, very talented senators who work in the public interest, who don't always necessarily have the opportunity to get elected directly to the Dáil. I'm thinking, for example, as the likes of Shane Ross. The majority of the books that Senator Ross writes are in the public's best interest to know. To keep individuals like that available in the public consciousness and available to help the country, I think is a good thing. So I think what's required is not the abolition for short-term financial gain, but actually to sit back and say, well, what is it you want to get from the Seanad? Reform how it works, potentially reform the size of it, the number of people who are in it, and actually set it what exactly is its objective.
You also have here bring government salaries in line with EU.
Yeah. Well, an awful lot of the points that I've heard while I've been involved in the campaign has been that we should set a target rate for salaries in the public sector of, say, 100k, and that's it. I think the argument you get into there is whether you actually end up with the most talented people to do the jobs. The majority of the talented people seem to be, or successful people, probably gravitate to the private sector, and you don't get them where you want them in order to help the country when they need it. So I think what we need to do is we need to actually compare to a similar sized country within Europe, say potentially Belgium or Holland. Holland gets used an awful lot by the main political parties as an example as to how we could run the health services. So why can't we actually sit down and go per head of population, what do they pay their politicians, and just make ours in line and comparable? There's no way that the Taoiseach of Ireland should be paid more than the Chancellor of Germany or the Prime Minister of France.
Or the Prime Minister of America.
No.
The President of America, I should say.
Yeah.
The other one that you have here, on your 5-point plan is the diaspora.
Yeah, this probably means most to me because I actually work in London. I emigrated to the UK about 15, 16 years ago. Over the last 3 years, I've commuted backwards and forwards to Ireland for family reasons and because I wanted to reconnect with being at home. I think we actually need to tap into the vast wealth of Irish people which exist throughout the world. We frequently have in books, for example, like David McWilliams' books, we refer to the fact that the diaspora is a resource for Ireland, but we don't actually know how to tap into it. And one of the things I'm trying to prove is that as an Irishman who lives abroad, we can get involved in politics. First of all, we can stand for election. I've actually been allowed to do that, and that's what I'm doing, although I don't work here.